It is my pleasure to introduce you to our keynote speaker, the Honorable K. Joseph Shekarchi. Shekarchi.
Speaker Joe.
Speaker Joe. Let's welcome Speaker Joe.
Thank you, Deborah. Deborah Bennett. That's a lot easier than Joe Shekarchi. So thank you very much for being here. What a great afternoon in a bad day, but very exciting, very passionate here. And I thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I certainly want to give a big shout out to Hillary, who is a good friend who I got to see today and is the primary conduit that worked with Emily from my staff to get here. So I really want to thank Hillary for doing this. And I want to acknowledge that we have some of my colleagues in the room with us today. We have Representative Morales, Representative Speakman, Representative Tanzi, and my good friends in the Senate have sent us Senator Coleman and Senator Mack. So thank you very much. I got a whole book of notes. I got a really great staff led by Emily, and she gives me a whole book of notes, but I don't really need them today. Because I prefer to talk a little bit, and I really would like to do is open it up to questions, because I like to hear from everybody. And I think it's important today. It's always important, and some of you said, oh, thank you for coming, thank you for coming. And always good, my friend Steve Allison, who spent a lot of time lately at the State House. And there's Steve Brown at the ACLU in the back. Great guy, yes, absolutely. We don't always agree, but we agree a lot more than we disagree. And I will tell you something, in all the years I've been at the State House, 12 years, he has comported himself with respect, compassion, passion, and just a lot of collaboration. So Steve, thank you for being in many ways the conscience of this state. So I appreciate that. So you invited me here. I'm so glad you did, and you want to know what's going on at the State House. Well, there's a lot going on in the State House, and this is a very, very challenging budget year. So we'll touch on a few things. We'll open up for questions. We've continued. This is my 5th year as Speaker. We've done 5 budgets. They've all been balanced, and they've all been bipartisan. I'm proud of that. So we're going to try to continue that if we can. But some of the partisanship in Washington is now, I think, has seeped down to the state level. So we'll do our best. But we'll work very hard to put together a responsible budget, learning to live within our means for the people of Rhode Island. There's always a lot of challenges. We have a significant revenue shortfall. The governor has given me a budget that has a lot of holes in it, to be quite honest with you. One of them you may have read about, which is he is a component in the budget. There's an article to combine minimum and medium security at the ACI to savings of about $6 million this year and $12 million annually. Unfortunately, he has abandoned that idea because there's actually no savings in doing that for a whole host of reasons. And they had an analysis. There's a $6 million hole. The Department of Education, led by Commissioner Fonte Green, has miscounted some students regarding reimbursements and federal stuff and a whole bunch of complicated stuff to the tune of anywhere from $15 to $39 million of a shortfall this year that we have to face. And then there's a budget article. I'm just giving you a couple of examples. A budget article to tax Facebook and Google ads. Doesn't sound like a bad idea. 2 big corporations make a lot of money. And when it was presented to me, I asked questions. And it went in the budget. There's a savings of $10 million this year and $20 million next year. When I say savings, new revenue. And I said, what other states are doing it? And only one state's doing it. Okay, who's the state? Well, it's Maryland. All right, well, when did they start? Well, they just started recently. Well, how much have they collected? 0. Well, how come? Well, they're being sued by Facebook and Google in federal court and state court. So there's another $10 million that I would have a real hard time putting in the budget when no state has collected a dime on that. So those are just some of the challenges. And of course, the big looming question, which I'm sure all of you know, because Unitarians are very smart, very passionate, very involved. That's why they're here on a Sunday afternoon. Is what is going on in Washington, and that is the $64,000 question, and we simply don't know. Every day it's a challenge, every day we don't know. I used to say it changes daily, it changes hourly now, it really does. And there's a lot of constellation, there's a lot of uneasiness. We just simply don't know. And we're looking for solutions, alternatives, and we can't wait. We have to do our job here in Rhode Island. We have to be prepared as best we can, and we have to hope that we get some kind of clarity of what, at least for this year, what our budget picture would look like. Because we put our budget together in May, and we vote on it in June. And that's how it's been. We're gonna do our very best to obviously meet as many of the requirements as I like to think, and my caucus thinks, and the General Assembly thinks of our community, of our state, and hopefully fund them as best we can. Thank you. Is that feedback?
Yeah, if it's feedback or that mic is an issue, let me just switch it.
There we go. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so thank you. So we'll do our very best to do that. And then there's always other issues. The budget's the single most important thing we do as a House of Representatives. We take that obligation very seriously. We are required to pass a balanced budget, and we will. What it will look like is anybody's guess right now. But we're gonna work hard. We have a lot of creative people who sit around the Finance Committee. We have a great House fiscal staff. We're gonna work, and we wait until May because we wait for our revenue numbers, which is our March 15th business tax returns, our April 15th, which is this Tuesday, income tax, and then our caseloads. First 10 days or so in May, we have a revenue conference. A revenue conference is when the governor, the Senate, and the House fiscal staff get together, and they have a very accurate number, and they have to all agree on what they think the revenue will be next year, and that's what we set our budget to. The governor sends us his budget based on the November, which is to his detriment, or just the way it is. He does it on we have November revenue conference, and he sets his budget, gives it to us in January. We begin a very public and robust process. I'm very proud of that since I've become speaker. Every single hearing is online. We televise it, it's public, it's on video on demand. You can go home tonight on Sunday and watch any hearing, and you can read about the testimony for and against any issue. So we're very much transparent, and I'm proud of that. So, but there are other issues. I see June Speakman, and June leads our affordable housing effort. She sits in the Affordable Housing Commission, but housing is a big passion of mine. Since I became speaker, we have worked tirelessly. We've passed 47 bills, a lot of them with the help of June and my colleagues, all of my colleagues, to pass them to hopefully address some of the housing crisis. And I will tell you that it's working. You may not feel it, or you may not see it, but building permits are up substantially, 70%. And the building permit is not a house, thank you. It takes a year or so to build a house, but they're up. Things are changing. We are leading the country. I met with a gentleman from the Pew Research Center on housing on Friday. He was very impressed with all the efforts we've made in Rhode Island. He said, literally, you're leading the country. Massachusetts is following us on ADU legislation. Not an easy piece of legislation. It's an accessory dwelling unit. It's granny flats, or it allows people to convert a garage or build a home on their property so they can age in place. It's the #1 priority for AARP nationally and locally. It passed the Senate last year finally after 3 years by 1 vote, but we got it done. And I was proud to get that done. I look forward to continuing on that as well. It's also the #1 priority of Rhode Island College Democrats because they're graduating from college. They have tons of debt. They have to pay off school debt. They can't afford a place to live. And they want to live independently of their parents, but close by. So those are the great things we've been doing on housing. We have adaptive reuse. We've done a lot of things. There's 47 different laws that we passed. We have another 12 this year that are in the hopper that are under consideration. We're looking at working very hard with. And they're not easy. I will tell you, they're not easy. We have local communities who push back very hard. In Johnston in particular, Narragansett, even sometimes here in East Greenwich, believe it or not. Everybody in this room wants affordable housing, but nobody wants it near them. And that's the truth. But just because it gets harder doesn't mean we stop. We actually double down. We work harder. We're more committed. And I am more committed now than I've ever been to do this because I'm seeing results. If you look at Austin, Texas, not necessarily a blue state or a blue city, Austin, Texas, what do they do to solve? You're seeing it. Homelessness is down significantly. Rents are declining, and prices are declining and stabilizing. Why? Because they've increased inventory. at every single level of housing. Market rate housing, workforce housing, affordable housing, low-income housing, and homelessness. It's a simple problem to diagnose. Hard to fix, but it's a supply and demand. You increase supply, everything goes down for pricing and availability goes up. And unfortunately, since 1990 to 2021, we haven't had any land use reform in this state. We've let the cities and towns do it by ordinance, and they have become more and more restrictive. Larger and larger lot size, 2 acres to build a house, 3 acres to build a house in communities. And I'll just talk about the housing legislation a little bit more, then I'll open up to questions on any issue. But what we've done is we've made it easier. 47 bills, only one has a financial component, the other 46 don't. We made the process easier, we made the process faster. We also created a land calendar at no cost to the state taxpayers inside of the Superior Court system, which allows land use disputes to move faster. And they've increased in 1 year, they've decreased by 50%. So the worst thing you can do to a developer is not to say yes or to say no. The worst thing is to say nothing and let a project languish. And we all know, interest rates are going up, supply costs are going up, materials are going up, depending on what hour we're in, tariffs are on, tariffs are off. Significant issue for housing. You increase the cost of lumber, which we get most of it from Canada, you're increasing the cost of building a house, affordable and otherwise. Not to mention all the other components that go into that. Well, we import, we're in a global economy, whether you like it or whether you want to admit it or not, that's a reality. We're in a global economy. So when one state or one country starts a trade war like we did last week, it has global effects and it affects back on us. And you saw that with other countries initiating tariffs against us. So, but we have not substituted our control, the state control, or local control for state control. We haven't done that. No project gets approved or denied at the State House. Every project gets decided locally. And we don't ever tell any community where to put affordable housing. We say you need more, we want more, we've made it easier for you, you decide. Is it an abandoned school? Is it vacant land? Is it a repurposing like a hospital or a factory? We let them decide where, and they still have local control. Maybe not as much as they wanted to, but they still say yes or no at a local level. And the last point I want to make about the housing package, we have not in any way relaxed any of the requirements for housing. We haven't changed any DEM regulations. We haven't said it's okay to build in a wetland. We haven't said you have to build it, whether you have water or sewer. No. If you don't have water capacity and you don't have sewer capacity, you don't build a house. Just like today, just like 10 years ago, just like 20 years ago. If you don't have the infrastructure, you can't build housing. What we've done is what I call gentle density. We've allowed more houses, single-family houses in single-family areas. We've allowed more multi-use houses in multi-use areas. So that's the way we are working to try to work with the community. We're going to continue to do that. I'm proud to say, and I'll conclude on this point, is this is the first year that the League of Cities and Towns has supported the entire house housing package. That hasn't happened before. That has never happened. Usually we're fighting, but they have a new president. We brought them in. We've incorporated an idea that they want in the housing package. We're working collaboratively. Now, it's not unified. I wouldn't kid anybody. It's not unanimously loved. There are still communities that are pushing back. The town of Tiverton just introduced, I think, 15, 18 bills to reverse all of the housing gains we've made in the last 4 or 5 years because they don't want housing. Basically, they don't want people who live in Fall River to come to Tiverton. That's the short of it, from what I can tell you. But beyond that, any issue is on the table. I have a very collaborative, leadership style. Some people like it, some people don't like it, but that's what it is. And as long as I'm speaking, I'm going to keep that way. I work very hard with the governor and the Senate because I can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. You need to work with the Senate and you need to work with the government, the executive branch. Whether you like it or not, that's the way government was designed, and that's the way I'm going to follow it. And I'm very proud of all of the accomplishments. I can go on about the Act on Climate, and a lot of the environmental legislation that we passed and that we killed in the House. I'm proud of that. I can go on and talk about pay equity and Marriage Equality, and Privacy Act, Reproductive Health Act, and all host of things. You know, the EACA, equal access to medical coverage, so a poorer person can afford to get an abortion if they decide to do that. I'm proud of those accomplishments, and it doesn't happen when I say I'm proud. It's not me. It's not. I am just one person of 75. And it's not easy. We have 74 other points of view. I try to let everyone be heard and listen, and everyone's point of view to count and matter. And then we collaboratively, hopefully, move forward on stuff that I think is important, stuff that I think is needed, stuff I think that can pass and turn into law. I'm not here an exercise in futility. I want to get things done. No speaker serves a long time, especially these days. And I'm not going to be speaker forever, but when I'm here, I want to pass good legislation. So thank you. I'll take the first question right here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming and sharing all that and all the efforts you've done. You certainly have made a lot more progress under your leadership than times past. And I also wanted to thank you for your support of June Speakman. I'm from Bristol. She's my representative.
Well,
Passionate about
go to the
housing.
city council. They're having a workshop. And my guess is that a lot of the people there are going to beat up the reps and senators for voting for the housing package. So go and support them. And there's a lot of housing advocates. If you say, what could we do to more housing? It's at a local level. Show up at your zoning board, show up at your planning board, show up at your city council. And we want housing at every single level. It's housing. It's where people live. We're not asking you to put a business in that has noise or odor or is it some kind of obnoxious to the... I can't think of a more benign use that everyone in this room, we all have a house to go to, whether we own it, whether we share it, whether we rent it. It's a house. And nobody should be against housing. Now, there are certain situations, sensitivity of land, wetlands, maybe too much density. That's a balance test.
Right.
But just to be against housing for the sake of housing or, affordable housing, and if you ask 10 people for what's affordable housing, you're gonna get 11 different answers, but that's another story.
Look, here's where I'm going. With your strong support and working with her expertise, you guys have moved the needle significantly. And I understand the constraints with the budget, but part of what we focused on here inside the Unitarian community is to advance our democracy. And there's a few bills that have been stuck for so long that don't have any, as far as I can tell, any budget implication. Jason Knight's been advocating for assault weapons ban. My wife and I are from Newtown, Connecticut, and lived there during the shooting. We know it's important. We're very strong supporters of eliminating predatory lending in the state. We've been over 15 years, we've been not able to move on that. And although we hadn't discussed it in the panel, one of the things that we've gotten behind strongly, which could enhance the budget, is what they're calling the millionaire or billionaire tax, whatever the phrase for it is.
It's about tax the rich.
The problem we're having, tax the rich, and I'm going to tell you, my point is, these bills, putting aside the last one we spoke about, they've been in committee for so long, they never are allowed to vote. And we find that to be tremendously frustrating. So I'm just wondering what
Thank you. Let's kind of unpack. There's a lot of questions there. Let's talk first about gun safety. So I'm very proud of the records that, the stuff that we passed. I want to point out that gun legislation is, people feel very passionate on both sides of the issue. But since I become speaker, we've passed more gun safety legislation than ever in the history of Rhode Island. I'm proud of that fact. Number one, if it wasn't for Chris Blazajewski, my majority leader, and myself, we had to exercise our ex officio capacity to go down, it's called downstairs, but down in the judiciary hearing to vote the magazine limit out of committee for 10 rounds. It's easier said than done. And there are certain issues like guns and abortion that I feel quite strongly that people have to make their own, it's a vote of conscience. It's what you feel. People feel very strongly about abortion. Some people it's a religious argument. Some people it's a body autonomous argument. But I'm proud of those things. So very interesting, why I bring a bill out, or when a bill's ready to be brought up for a vote, is when there's consensus among our chamber and consensus along the other chambers. Like, for example, you said payday lending. Well, everyone said, bring payday lending out for vote. Well, I did, and it passed the House, but it died in the Senate. So, I mean, we can keep doing that year after year after year, but there's only so much chits you can do, and I want to concentrate on passing legislation.
This meeting is being recorded.
I'm not surprised. So Steve Alquist, where's Steve Alquist? Steve Alquist, wherever I talk about housing, this man shows up, and I'm so happy about it. And everywhere he goes, he's got his camera and his phone, so when I see Steve, I know I'm being recorded. So thank you. I'm just curious about tax the rich. So there's a lot of different bills on taxing the rich, but I want to just point out so everyone kind of understands. Tax the rich is some people call it the millionaire's tax, but the tax the rich is as low as $450,000, and it has to be looked at and studied for the implications. We are also, and by the way, let's just say, for example, if we tax the rich, we raise $100 million. We have $1 billion problem. So that only touches a small amount. When Gina Raimondo was doing pension reform many years ago, the state workers and the people who were affected, to their credit, said, just raise, more contributions from the new people. It's a math problem. It doesn't solve the problem. And then when we raise this $100 million, every one of my reps, I love them all, 74 of them will tell you that it's going to go to their project, their priority, their concern. If we ever did raise that, pass the tax, and we may do it, I don't know, we'll have to wait to see what the revenue numbers, but it's going to be shared. There's a Senate that has priorities, and there's a governor that has priorities. And I will tell you that I'm not about a shutdown of government. If you remember, we had that in Rhode Island about 7, 8 years ago. The House and Senate didn't agree. It was a budget item, and we shut down government for about 3 months. We had to live on last year's budget, and they parcel it out on 1/12 every month, and it was real hardship to the cities and towns. So I don't like to be someone who threatens a shutdown. I want to bring people together, bring them in a room to do that. So that's under consideration. I keep an open mind on that. But you got to understand, just by taxing the rich, whether it's $1 million or $450,000, which is I think the current bill, it doesn't solve all the problems. It's not. You can't tax our way out of Washington's budget cuts. It's not even close to that. And what I will tell you is we'll listen. Is that better?
Shut it off and turn it back on. Shut it off.
Okay.
I'm wondering, should we go to the next question too while you're doing that?
Oh,
I shut it off.
may I ask the next question?
You are next.
All right. Thank you so much for all the work that you've done for our state, for all the work you continue to do. And I know for sure that you support democracy, that you support freedom of expression, that you support the Freedom to Read bill, because it's, just basically a freedom of expression, a very American democratic bill. And we've had wonderful hearings in the Senate and at the House. We had, I think, just 3 people speak in opposition during the Senate hearing, 0 people speak in opposition during the House hearing, but authors like me and illustrators and teachers and librarians, the people behind these books that are being censored, are very afraid because we're getting a lot of pushback, and we are very keen on protecting the human beings that stand behind all of the books that are being censored. And we were wondering, because this bill has been sort of in committee for quite a while, if this will be the year that it finally gets voted out of committee and passed, and what we can do to help that.
So, thank you. And this is only 2 years for the bill. And a lot of good piece of legislation takes several years. I fully expect the bill will come out this session for a floor vote. We are studying it. You don't have to worry about that vote, because there's a young man over there named David Morales, and he reminds me every single day. right to read speaker. He comes by every day when I'm on the roster. He goes like this. He comes with a little button on, or he hands me something. I have another rep who does that. She's a little crazy. I love her. I don't mind saying it. We're being recorded. I tell her this. Her name's Julie Casimiro, and she's very passionate about children's issues. And she texts me incessantly, and she calls me and emails me, and she leaves me notes on my car, and then she also comes up on the roster. I'm trying to run this room with 75 people and look at the votes and look at who's next on the agenda and this and that. And before license, she's like, speaker. I'm like, what? She goes, this bill, that bill, my bill. So, and David does the same thing with Right to Read. So I like the bill myself. We're going to work through it. We're just sitting down now to start going through legislation. I'm working all next week. I'll be on Channel 12 if anybody wants to watch me on Thursday. And I'm not going away. I have about 12 hours I'm out of state. Maybe not even 12 hours, maybe 8 hours on Wednesday. But other than that, I'm working today. Because my good friends in the Senate sometimes say, we're getting out early because the speaker's going to Israel, or the speaker's going to Italy. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to Oneyville. I'm not going anywhere. So I'm here, and I'm planning on working the entire vacation. We're off break week. I want to go back to one other point that Steve made about tax the rich. And I understand that, and I keep an open mind on it. But I've also heard, I want everyone to know that we're in a very critical moment with Hasbro. And part of the state's pitch for Hasbro is to stay here, that they have a millionaire's tax in Massachusetts and we don't. That's first of all. There's a lot of other variables going into the Hasbro occasion, but I've heard from some of the biggest employers in the state, FM Global, they met with me last week, and Ocean State Job Lot, who are very concerned about our tax policies as we move forward and as they exist now compared to our neighbors. So when Ocean State Job Lot came in to see me, and they were, had a laundry list of concerns about business and workers' comp issues and taxation and employee insurance and all these things, and they can't understand why everybody says, like, they wear a shirt, they can't understand. They do so many charitable things. And I said to them, here's what you're going to do. You're going to invite the General Assembly down to Ocean State and meet them and learn them and try to understand, because understanding good tax policy, understanding good employers is critical. You've got to remember who pays the majority of taxes here. It's high-paying private sector jobs in Rhode Island, and we don't need to be chasing them away. Having said that, everybody needs to pay their fair share as well. So we're going to try to figure that out. So thank you. And Right to Read Act, I fully expect you to see a vote. And I don't. When I say that, I'm speaking only from the House perspective. I do not control the Senate, although some people think I do. Some people think I do. I truly don't. I have a tremendous amount of respect for each and every one of the senators, and I never speak for them or usurp their power. They have a significant constitutional responsibility to play in the budget process and in state government in general.
Thank you, sir. And if there's anything we can do to help you move from you like the bill to you love the bill,
I'll tell you,
please let me know.
You can call individual state reps and you can tell them that you want this bill to be a priority. Because I know David Morales is going to give me a list, and it's going to have his priorities on it. He's going to have Right to Read. And the more people who put that on as their priority or one of their priorities, the more likely it passes and comes out for a floor vote. So thank you. Who's next? We're over here, this gentleman right here.
Thank you for being here.
It is my pleasure.
Okay, so
Maybe I'll make so everybody
all
can hear
right,
you.
appreciate it, thank you. So there's something I read, the headline is Rhode Island GOP Chairman Joe Powers slams hands-off protest. The real fight should be hands off our money. Now, there's a lot to the statement, I don't know if you've seen it.
I have.
Okay, so.
They're not my favorite people.
No. So we're trying to reach common ground with people and understand where they're coming from. So how, as a Speaker of the House, do you reach common ground if I read some of these things, I mean, for me personally, it's quite disturbing.
First of all, it's very disturbing. I try to separate the Republicans who I serve with in the House and the General Assembly from the Republican Party. And I'll be very honest with you, I don't like the Republican Party at all. I'm not embarrassed to say it or whatever. They filed about a year and a half ago a fake, a bogus, a partisan ethics complaint against me. It was very difficult for me personally because my integrity is one of the most important things I have for me personally. Reputation, politics aside, issues aside, it's my integrity, and they attacked my integrity, and they did it in a very bad way because I know you all heard about what happened in Pennsylvania today. The governor's house was he had an arson attack. Well, I had an arson attack too at my law office when I first became speaker, and my office was burned to the ground, and I lost all my records in 45 minutes. So I practiced with my sister, and 45 minutes early, my sister was there before the fire started. Somebody set it off, and there were all kinds of theories. It's still under active investigation by the federal authorities and the state authorities as well, the state fire marshal, the AFT, and another federal agency. There's 2 federal agencies. But after that, I lost all my records. They made a complaint against me. And I was 100% totally exonerated. And I'm proud of that. But it took me 9 months. And it took me thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, not taxpayer dollars, thousands and thousands of dollars to defend this. The Ethics Commission had 2 investigators and a lawyer full-time investigating me for 9 months. And they went to I practiced municipal law, planning board, zoning boards, liquor license, city council. They went to all 39 cities and towns. And they would give me questions about, like, why did you represent this project in West Warwick? And what was your connection to this project? And I looked at it, and I thought, I didn't represent anybody in that. And then I said to myself, I don't have records to check. Let me go look. And I went to West Warwick, and their files weren't there, and I had to go through microfilm and ask for the files. And it turns out it was a different attorney named Joe Shaka, not Joe Shekarchi. But you laugh. It wasn't, I had a week of constellation where I'm pouring through these records, or I'm paying people to go through that. And then someone asked me I did something on Hope Street. I never did anything on Hope Street. And sure enough, I had to go look through the records. And in 2003, I represented someone, 2003, I wasn't an elected official. I represented somebody who wanted a shed on a property on Hope Street in Warwick. But going to look for records that are 20 years old, I don't have any of my files. I had good files, but I was older, and I had just completed a backup. But all my backups were in the office. I never thought of a fire. I thought of backups from a hack, from the online hack. So I have the short version, I can talk about that for some more. And by the way, not only was I exonerated, but they said that the allegation wasn't true. But even if the allegation was true, it was not an ethics violation. So I give the Ethics Commission credit for that. They went a step further, and they gave me not only a procedural win, but on the merits as well. And I'm proud of that. But I've heard that they're still trying to say that this housing legislation, thank you, benefits me and my family and my clients and whatever. We'll just deal with it when and if that comes. The short version is that the Republicans in the House are a little bit more balanced than what you see. They don't always get along with the state party. For the most part, it's a good working relationship. Now, we will disagree strongly on gun safety legislation. We'll disagree strongly on Inspector General legislation, because I have a whole host of reasons why I think it's a waste of taxpayer dollars, and I don't like the secrecy aspect of these bills, and I congratulate Steve Brown, who testified against it, and several other people as well, not to mention that we already have an Attorney General, Bureau of Audits, an Auditor General, U.S. Attorney, all who investigate all that stuff. But I find common ground, I cannot find common ground with the state Republican Party. I don't like, there's 3 people who run that, I don't like any of them. No, seriously, the Republicans in the House and in the General Assembly, I have a good working relationship. Don't always agree, but I work across the aisle, and I'm trying to work on some housing legislation. Zamorano Hospital, Senator De La Cruz and Representative Place are very concerned about that. Mike Chippendale sometimes supports some of the housing legislation. He's the Republican leader from Foster and Gloucester. But you will find that they will vote for the Democrats more than they vote against it, sometimes 75, 80%. And that's where I find common ground. And a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have voted for the budget. Those budgets are bipartisan. That's not easy. But I also find common ground with them when it comes to a lot of the Medicaid and Medicare stuff, the federal stuff. They have a staff person who's very good on that. So Mike will come to me, Mike Chippendale, with some issues and say, Speaker, take a look at this. I think the state can save some money here and use this money here. We can help children, we can help sick, we can help people who, you know, a lot of the Medicaid stuff that we get from the federal government, they're matching programs. And there's sometimes 90-10 matches. So the federal government pays 90% and the state pays 10%. If those programs get cut back, that's a significant cut. And we cannot make that up. And we're talking about the most needy of the needy. We're talking about people who need insulin. We're talking about people who use the state transportation system to go back and forth to dialysis. And those are the people, the most needy of the needy, those are the ones I'm concerned about. And that's that's hundreds of millions of dollars of potential cuts, which I hope and I pray we don't get, but we have to plan for that, and that's what I'm doing. And as much as we want to tax our way out of that, we can't. It just, the numbers don't work. So we have to look at that, we have to prioritize what is the most important thing that we need to do. And that's not just me alone or me and my caucus. I meet weekly with the governor and the Senate president or the Senate leadership. We had a meeting on Wednesday, we have another meeting tomorrow. And that's all we're talking about, is trying to manage the stuff that's coming out of Washington and the cuts. That's the paramount issue. It's a paramount issue. Plus, we have to try to have some semblance of a good business, a good business climate, because we want to attract good businesses here. We have a company we attracted from Massachusetts called Organ Genesis. Great company, medical therapy. I did $45 million of ARPA money. We did $250 million on housing, but I did 45 in a bioscience hub, and we're starting to see, there's a lot of excitement there. Eli Lilly is considering coming to Rhode Island to bring hundreds of high-paying jobs. Orgogenesis moved from Massachusetts to Rhode Island. It could be upwards of 500 high-paying private sector jobs. That's great. They pay taxes, they're good in the economy, and they do wonderful things. They have all kinds of, it has to do with skin and scar tissue. 10 years ago, there was a company in Massachusetts, it was a bio startup. It's called Moderna. And look what it is now, and look what it can be. So we need to continue to meet the needs of today, but we want to be able, I can do a couple more questions. If you,
No, I think we have to, somebody make this call.
I want to do at least two more, because I talk a lot, and I don't want to cut anyone off. You give me a microphone, it's dangerous. That's why I only read a little bit from my notes. Thank you.
5 more minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes is fine, thank you.
I just wanted to ask if you could talk about the budget and what's happening in regards to the funding REPTA.
Very good point. RIPTA has a whole advocacy group. They have a great lobbying team, and they God bless them, they spend a lot of money. RIPTA is a chronic mess. That's what I can say. They had a leadership change there. Last year, they desperately needed money to provide service routes. We gave the money. We had money last year, we gave the money. We asked for one thing from RIPTA. We asked them to give us a efficiency study so we can understand why is this a problem, what we need to prioritize, what are the routes. I know all of you, like I have seen a lot of RIPTA buses, sometimes they're relatively full and sometimes they're empty. And I don't know the process, I don't know about it. But we gave them money, we asked for the study. They haven't done the study, they haven't done that. The governor has put $0 of increase in their budget. And there's another example of an agency that got a lot of federal money that doesn't have it. So they want more money. And their advocacy group says, just take it from the general fund. So it's not new money, Speaker, it's just the general fund. Well, taking it from the general fund is new money because that leaves a hole in the general fund. Now there's some proposals in the RIPTA lobbying team. The woman who runs it, her name is Nicole, she's everywhere. She's handing out shirts, she's lobbying the floor every day, and she does a good job. There's 4 or 5, they have a good lobbying team and they're very effective, but they want $35 million that I don't have, that we don't have as a state. So in order for me to get that, I have to cut somewhere else or raise revenue somewhere else. That's just one thing. The hospital system wants the hospitals in Rhode Island want $90 million more. Primary care physicians want more money, and I get it. Soldier in our house, they do domestic abuse work. Great. By the way, every one of these organizations are nice and worthy of funding, and we have funded them. The state has funded them significantly, but we did it with one-time money, ARPA money, CARES Act money, infrastructure money. That money has run out, and even with securing what was already been promised to us. It sounds like it was a great win for Al. That money was already booked that we had gotten from Pete Buttigieg and Biden and Gino Raimondo for the bridge. And then Trump held it back. We were able to get it released. The state still has to spend a significant amount of money on the Washington Bridge. We don't know the cost of that bridge. We don't know. We don't have a design yet, and we don't have a timetable, but I can guarantee you there's going to be state money in that bridge. So we can't abandon the East Bay. Now, there's some things we can do to help RIPTA. We may be able to increase some of the ride share money that we do for Uber and Lyft and direct it to RIPTA. But RIPTA's got to get its management, its organization together. And by the way, I think the management they have now is good. I'm not criticizing them. It's just it took them a year to start a study. And we don't have any chances of what the results will be. We might not even know until some of what the efficiency is. But we need to look at, do we need smaller buses instead of bigger buses? I don't know. But there's great organizations. There's a great need. The nursing homes want additional money regarding staffing levels. I mean, there's just, it seems like a never-ending demand for additional state funding. Keep in mind, RIPTA is not being cut. RIPTA is just getting the same allocation that they got last year. And they want more, and we just don't have more. And it's very difficult when it doesn't make it into the governor's initial budget, because I have to fill, what we talked about earlier, the Facebook and Google tax hole. I have to fill the medium/minimum combination that's gone, and I have to fill the education under count or over budget that they are before we can even get to RIPTA. So I don't know the answer to that, but RIPTA is just one of many areas looking for additional funding. I can tell you, and by the way, education, that's a whole other story, especially East Greenwich. I've heard from the rep, Justine Caldwell, very passionate education advocate. Speak of any money, any extra money has to go into education. It has to go into education. And I understand that last year, above and beyond what the governor put in his budget, the General Assembly gave $70 million more to cities and towns for education. Some education communities have spent it wisely. Unfortunately, some haven't. I'll use my own community. Warwick has a deficit. We don't know because they can't tell us whether it's a $3, $5, $9, or $15 million deficit. We don't know that. In the schools only, because they had gotten ESSA money, which is like CARES Act money for education, one-time money, and they hired a bunch of new positions, and they used it for things that it really was not intended for, and that has caused that. We don't know to what extent, so hopefully it's not too bad. The mayor has appointed or is about to appoint a budget oversight committee. The General Assembly passed it, the House and Senate, so that we can have some kind of oversight and a plan. And the current plan right now is to take some of the salaries and pension obligations and just delay them a year. Well, that just means it's going to be double next year. That's what it's going to do. So, I like RIPTA. I think Chris, who's running it, is the right guy at the right time. He was the CFO's chief financial officer. I have a great relationship with the RIPTA union, the bus drivers union. They're lobbying. They're part of the lobbying effort. It's just, where do I get the money from? And for the hospitals, and the nursing homes, and Soldier House, and lots of other organizations. All good ones, by the way. But there's got to be some good management. We hire these departments, we fund them, DCYF, and we give out money, education. There's got to be an accountability. These directors who get paid a lot of money, and that's a whole nother issue. The executive branch wants to give them raises. I'm opposed to that. I've said it publicly. If it gets transferred to me, I'm going to bring that to the floor and let my membership vote on it, because this is not the time of year, and quite frankly, the performance to give out raises. We just don't, and I know the money's small. In terms of the budget, it's about $90,000. It's just bad optics. You send out the wrong message. So thank you. One last question.
I actually have Marge over here who's been waiting very patiently, so that will be our last question. I just want to acknowledge we're very over time, so we'll hold you to a 2-minute answer, and Marge, you get the last one.
Thanks.
How much overtime are we?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm sorry. I'm
No worries.
sorry. I get carried. That's why I love the question and answer.
Speaker, you mentioned primary care physicians. We have a very critical shortage of primary care physicians in Rhode Island. With the closing of Anchor Medical at the end of the month, there'll be another 25,000 Rhode Islanders without primary care folks. A lot of these patients are in the room. What kind of efforts are on the way to ease that shortage?
Well, first of all, let me just tell you, I understand that probably better than anyone else's perspective for two reasons. Number one, my father was a doctor, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for the medical profession. But number two, I don't have a primary care doctor. My doctor retired in October. She's younger than I am, and she was burnt out. And she was from South America, and she moved to California for some family, and then she's gonna move back to South America and practice medicine there. So I understand that. Again, it's a very complicated stuff. I'm trying to give you an overview. The Rhode Island Foundation did a report last year. Why our reimbursement rates are so low in Rhode Island. And they did a very good job of identifying that by saying that it basically in Rhode Island, and I'll say me, I'm guilty of this too, we have passed a lot of mandates on insurance companies. Cover this, cover that. The bill I passed when I was the majority leader was cover mastectomy, supplies and equipment in post-operative requirements. And we made them cover it at zero copay. And they said, fine, and what that money comes out of is that same premium. That in the Rhode Island Foundation report, our premiums were relatively the same as Massachusetts and Connecticut, but our reimbursement rates are low. It's because we cover a tremendous amount of stuff in Rhode Island, more than Massachusetts covered, like for example, like EpiPens. Some of those things are covered, some of them are covered partially, some of them are covered in full, and it's those types of things. So I've tried to explain this to my caucus that we need to be careful when we pass healthcare mandates, because what we're doing is we're making it more difficult to raise reimbursement rates. So what are we doing? We have a bunch of bills in the General Assembly. I know my good friends in the Senate have passed a lot of legislation, but it comes with money, it comes with a price tag, and it's money we don't have. The Senate, and I love that it passed a bill, universal pre-K. It's a great bill. I wish we could have it, but I think we're looking at the estimate, $70 million that's not in the budget. And I don't know where to get that money. So we need to look at that. And I know school lunch is always a big issue, free school lunch and free school breakfast. And I think we should, but maybe for the people who need it and not the wealthy people. That's just me, it's just my opinion. But there's a price tag on that. And Justine Caldwell, who represents this area, that's a big proponent. She wants that as well, free school lunch. But there's some communities, for the most part, already do that. And there's some communities that are eligible to do that, and they need to fill out forms because they get reimbursed from the federal government, and the administrations don't want to do that. It's too difficult to speak, it's too time consuming, and just pass it for everybody, but it costs money. And it's just, there's only so much of it. The State House is a beautiful building. Many of you have been there, Senator Mack's there every day, many of you have been there, but I assure you all, there is no printing press in the basement. We don't make money. And I don't open up the bottom drawer and have an extra 20 million or 30 million to pass out. It just doesn't exist. And unlike the federal government, we have to pass a balanced budget. I can't pass an imbalanced budget. Our Constitution requires us to pass a balanced budget. So the long answer to that is we're looking at a whole suite of bills. Representative Fogarty has some bills. There's a little bit of money involved. There's pre-authorizations we could try to get rid of. There's a whole type of stuff. I have my own priorities, like all my other reps, and my priority is if we have any extra money in May, I want it to go to primary care doctors and practices. That's what I want it to go. Now that's not to mean it's going to go that way, because I know some people want me to be bad speaker just because if it's the cause that they want or they like, they want me to beat up everybody and just push it through. But if it's, that's not me. I try to let everyone be heard and have a voice at the table, and I try to rule with consensus and bring people together. That's how I've been very successful with my housing legislation, which is not easy. But if it's something you don't like, oh, he's bad, he's using his power, he's using the most powerful position in state government to ram this through. Well, I don't do that for any issue. I try to rule with consensus on the merits, look at it and study it. That's where I'd like the money to go. And I'll tell you why. Not because it's needed, because just like this gentleman said with Richter, it's needed, but we've helped those organizations I helped whip out an additional $10 million last year, 10 or 11, I think. We've helped out education last year, an extra 70 million, but we really haven't addressed it to any significant way yet, is primary care doctors. And by the way, I got an email from Dr. Schulman. I'll be happy to share with anybody because he's very outspoken. I had a neighborhood meeting on the east side on Monday. He was there. Okay, she's taking time, so let me finish. So, and he said, Speaker, don't give the money to the hospitals. They raised, in the black, 25 million and 35 million. Don't give money to the hospitals, give it to the doctors. So, anyway, thank you very much, and thank you all for your questions. I enjoyed coming here. Thank you so much for your opportunity. Thank you. And if you want me back next year, just get a hold of Emily. I'd be happy to come back.
Thank you so much. That was incredible. Thank you for your generosity of your time.